E aí, pessoas, eu sou a Priscila Ganiko e eu entrevistei o roteirista e diretor de Como Treinar, Seu Dragão 3, o Dean DeBlois. A gente conversou sobre monstros, sobre família, o Banguela ficou aparecendo na tela, enfim, vocês vão ver a entrevista porque ela vai começar agora. We've seen Hiccup grow at the course of these 3 movies, and in this particular movie we see him as a baby and as a grown man with a beard and all of that. So how was it for you to follow this whole development of character?
I think it's really fun. It feels fresh. Not very often in animated films do we see characters get older. And so it's something that we decided to do from the first movie to the second movie, advance the clock by 5 years. Really that was so that we could have a different crossroads in Hiccup's life. And so we have an organic next stage in his development. But in the third film, we play with the timeline a little bit more. As you say, we go back to moments when he was a very young little boy, all the way to when he's now older and fully grown. And it allows kind of a nice glimpse of his whole life.
The first movie came out 8 years ago and we had a few leaps in technology. So is there anything that you couldn't do in the first movie that now you can?
8 years ago, what was really difficult was anything that was kind of organic and amorphous, interacting with something that is solid like a person. So moving through clouds or interacting with water. Or even, sand on a beach. Now we have the ability to render that with such beautiful detail, and it's so real. It feels like you could reach in and touch it. Yeah, the ability to put detail on screen now is it's like nothing else. I mean, it's such a rich visual experience, and we can put as many characters and as detailed an environment on screen as we like.
You also put a lot of dragons on the hidden world. So do you have any idea how many do we have there?
No, I don't know. I've never asked. I just know that any pocket of space where we felt like we wanted to fill it with dragons, we could. We have a whole department called the crowds department, and they take every type of dragon that we have and they can populate them with all of these different animation behaviors.
You worked on Lilo Stitch as well, which is also a kind of movie where you have a human welcoming a so-called monster into the family. So what's the favorite thing about these fantastic creatures?
I think for me, the stories that I love most, I loved them when I was a kid, I still love them as an adult, are stories where it's a regular kid having a relationship with something extraordinary. So it could be, in the case of Lilo and Stitch, an alien in disguise, or the idea of a dragon, or any creature. I loved E.T. when I was growing up, so it's this idea of having something so extraordinary happen to you, that it has a quality of wish fulfillment. It takes your ordinary life and makes it extraordinary.
Extraordinary. You also worked on Mulan?
Yes.
Oh, so you did like Oriental dragons? Now Oriental dragons. You always seem surrounded by dragons or fantastical creatures in some way.
The thing about dragons, it's amazing. They cross so many cultures.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a creature of fantasy that you can find in many parts of the world, even in Africa, which is amazing. It's wonderful to do a story that really crosses boundaries, can travel around the world, that so many cultures have found some form of dragon in their mythology.
Monsters in movies, kind of monsters, when I say monsters, they have always been a way for us to deal with human imperfections. Do you think that this also reflects in your movies? Like somehow we deal with our failures and especially our flaws and like welcome it into our lives or something?
Definitely, I think so. Because and I don't want to make it a spoiler at all, but really the idea of dragons and the ambition that Cressida Cowell, the author of the books, had with her last installment was to explain what happened to them, why they aren't here anymore. And part of it is this legend of it's us, we're the problem. If humans can learn to get along in a better way, then maybe something as magical as the dragons could come back. So I love kind of teasing out that idea. Certainly in the first film, they represented kind of the other, something that we immediately label as bad. But Hiccup, of course, took a chance, and he got to know this enemy and discovered there's so much in common with our own problems. So they represent that as well. They represent something that is kind of feared, and if you take the chance, if you get to know what it is, then it suddenly is full of personality and warmth, and can be a great ally.
It's you and me, bud. Always.